Welcome to the Midweek Mailbag, your Detroit Lions podcast where we answer your mailbag questions. I was going to say every week, but mostly every week because we are back after a week off. Turned out to be just a nothing week, a throwaway week in Detroit Lions calendar. Nothing happened. I just took a vacation and everything was great.
Everything was great. Absolutely. It was handled perfectly.
Sure. Yes.
Enjoy your vacation?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. I'm so glad. I'm so happy for you.
All right. Before you make me feel bad about taking a break, let me introduce ourselves. My name is Jeremy Reisman. I'm the producer over at Pride of Detroit. You can find me at Detroit Online on socials. That other condescending voice you may hear is the acting managing editor of Pride of Detroit. You can find him at Erik Schlitt on Twitter. It's Erik Schlitt. How we doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm excited to see which next star player will retire when you go on vacation again. So, I fully blame you. The first thing that came to my mind when I saw the news pop up on my phone was Jeremy. Like
you and like 15 people on Twitter.
Oh, everyone rightfully pointed the finger at you.
No,
I understand.
You know what's going to happen next time I leave is Aiden Hutchinson's going to sign his extension. It's going to be good news. It's going to be great news. And I already have that one pre-written in the bag.
Where? It's like, I think he pre-wrote it like months ago.
3 months ago, maybe?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's buried under all my tears of sadness for Frank Ragnow.
Well, unfortunately for you, that is going to be one of the main topics on this week's Midweek Mailbag because we really haven't had an opportunity to talk about it too much. We'll also talk a little Za'Darius Smith because there was a minor to mediocre development this week with him.
Sure.
And a whole bunch of other questions. As always, if you have any questions for us, if you're a Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber, you can just email them to me. Otherwise, you can just send it to the Pride of Detroit account on Twitter when we send out a message for it. But let's get right into it. Our first one does come from a Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber. That's Tate. Says, are the Lions more able to re-sign JMO now that they have $15 million freed up for the next 2 years and won't have to plan for Ragnow's upcoming contract extension? Let's start there, and he's got a second question as well.
So let's clarify right off the bat, like how the money works, right?
Yep.
They still owe him a pretty fair amount of money. That's just part of the contract. That's how all contracts work when a player retires or is cut or whatever. And so he ends up being owed $8.4 million that was remaining on his contract. But there's an opportunity to free up a significant portion, which is the non-guaranteed parts of his contract. And so the Lions have two options in which they can take because of the timing of when Frank decided to retire. He retired on June 2nd, which is, I'm sure not ironically, the exact date that someone needs to wait until before the team gets the option to split the cap hit if they want. And there's really no downside to it. So the Lions could, one, absorb the whole cap hit right now, or they could split it. The timing of when Ragnow retired on June 2nd leads me to believe they're probably going to take the latter option, which is the split method, which means that they'll get more money freed up now, more opportunity to roll money over. They'll take a $4.8 million cap hit now, but free up 9.2, and then next year they take a $3.6 million cap hit, and so my guess is they're going to free up around $9 million. And I know 15 looks like it's going to come off the books because that's what Frank's contract was, but it's really going to be more like about 9 if they maximize it, which is what I think they'll do. But is that enough to like change the scope of what their offseason plans are from a contract extension standpoint, or maybe re-signing a free agent? I don't think it changes it at all. They have the option because they have a lot of money. They have $9 million more potentially, but they kind of had that. They had a boatload of money anyways that they could have done a move if they felt they needed to. And so, yes, it gives them more money for a variety of things. We're going to talk about Za'Darius Smith. We're going to talk about, about, it could be an Aiden extension. It could be a variety of things. But I don't think it really changes their approach. I don't think it all of a sudden, now that Frank retires, now there's money for JMO. I think they would have found the money one way or another, or they would have found a way to maneuver the cap for JMO if they want JMO to stick. Or they could find a way to maneuver money for Za'Darius Smith if they want to bring him in. So I don't think it changes their philosophy too much. It does give them more options because it's more money, but I don't think it's a paramount amount of money that is going to alter any big decisions.
Yeah, the only place where I would push back a little bit is just like down the road, right? You got to think of this as also something that affects 2028 and 2029. Frank Ragnow's contract isn't going to be there. A theoretical Frank Ragnow extension is not going to be there. But if you follow the tea leaves of like this entire story, the Lions probably knew it wasn't going to be on the book. He wasn't going to be on the books in 2028 and 2029. Like,
that's my speculation as well. Yes.
Right. As soon as Frank Ragnow approaches the team and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about it. Give me some time." That's the moment where you as a franchise have to start planning for that player to be gone. And we don't have a direct timeline of when Dan was given that information that he's considering it. But it's fair to say it happened well before the decision was made. Whether it was pre-draft or post-draft, don't know. Whether it's pre-free agency, post-free agency, we don't know for sure. But the Lions have likely been planning for this for some time. And so even though... Go ahead.
I would argue they have been contemplating this since the NFC Championship game in San Fran, because that was some of the stuff Frank was talking about then. Right. And, he came back and he was talking about how he, felt reinvigorated and et cetera. But I think this is something they've been planning for a couple of years, even though maybe we haven't been.
I mean, Amon-Ra even said, as soon as we were walking off that field in Washington, like I knew at that point, like there was a chance that was Frank's last game. Like this was not I mean, they did a great job keeping it secret outside the locker room, but
yes,
it was not a secret. It doesn't seem like it was a secret inside the locker room. The second half of Taymor's question is the all familiar question that I think, because the Lions have such a high percentage of former players on their coaching staff, anytime a player decides to retire or quit or whatever, this question ultimately comes up, which is, will Frank Ragnow become part of the coaching staff, or will there was another question about him, maybe just being like a 2-month consultant until the start of the regular season to help whoever, whether it's, whoever they put back there in some aspects. So I don't know. What do you, I think we're probably both going to come to an agreement on him being an assistant coach, and that's definitely not going to happen right away. Probably never.
The whispers on the wind that I heard was his kids, and being available for his kids was a big part of his decision. And if you're jumping right back into coaching, that's not accomplishing the reason you retired. Right. And so he's got one young kid and one on the way, I think, or he's about to have a second, right?
Yep.
And so I have a gut feeling he's going to be, Mr. Mom at home for a couple of years, and and see where that carries him before he even contemplates making any football decisions beyond that. So I'm not expecting him to be to pull a mule, right, and just all of a sudden be like, hey, here I am. But I don't know. I don't know if it's ever been in his desires to be a coach. I know he's smart enough. I know he's, there's a lot of aspects of his character that speak to his ability to do it. I just don't know if he has a desire.
Yeah, that's that's something we can't ever really know for sure. And it's something that maybe he even changes. Maybe like if you'd ask him today, he'd say like, I have no interest in coaching. And then, 5 years down the line in retirement, be like, I miss the game. I miss the camaraderie. I got to go back in the locker room and be a coach.
That is the Randall L move. If you remember, Randall L was adamant about not coaching, not letting his kids play football, And then about 5 years after, he was like, "Oh, I'd like to be a coach." And then a couple years after that, it's, "Oh, I'd like to be a head coach."
Right.
And then, "Oh, I want to be a head coach in the NFL." And so, yeah, perspective changes with time, but right now, it doesn't seem like it's something that I'm projecting Frank to do.
Yeah. Plus, I don't know. Just like the Midwest in him seems like he wants
Sure.
to, like, if this is me making assumptions, but makes me feel like he would love to live an unassuming life for the next 50 years, right? Like that seems like
Sure.
it's in his personality. All right. Next question here. I'm going to jump to John from North Carolina. Another Pride of Detroit direct subscriber says, I think there are questions on how much time Jared Goff is going to get in protection now with Frank Ragnow gone. This offense wasn't known for throwing it downfield already. Won't this increase the short passing game? With all the hype around JMO this season, I'm not sure this won't affect his deep reception numbers.
I do think it's valid to have concerns, because one, we don't know what they're going to look like. We don't know who's going to play where, and so it's completely understandable. And yes, the next logical step is to say if there's questions about being able to pass protect, and then questions about time, then that would eliminate plays that take time to develop. That being said, John Morton has said that deep ball is part of the game that he wants to highlight. The folks in Allen Park have been talking about JMO all off season and talking about how that's an important part of his game. And so I do think they're going to try and incorporate it. Whether or not they're going to have the time is something we're going to have to see and we're going to have to figure out. But I think they're going to, kind of try and defy the logic here, and they want to push the ball downfield, and I believe that they're going to try it, and they're going to want to incorporate it, and they're not going to eliminate from their game plan, even though there's a lot of dots that John connects that make sense.
Yeah. I mean, they're just going to assume the best, right? Until otherwise proven. Because,
Sure.
yeah, I think that the one thing that, of all the JMO hype that really struck a chord with me was Dan Campbell just like insisting how important he's going to be to everything they do. And to be fair, like he was talking about JMO's versatility a lot too. It's not just JMO being the deep ball threat because he's evolved beyond that, right? It's like you said, putting his foot in the ground and being able to stop on a dime and turn around and, run curls, run outs, all that sort of stuff. But the reason why that's so dangerous with JMO is because if he's able to do that stuff, then he's going to be more likely to be able to beat you over the top. He's going to be able to beat you with double moves when that first move is now in his arsenal. He can pull that sort of stuff off. And so they are going to call double moves. They are going to call deep shots with JMO. And you're right. Like at this point, it'd be presumptuous of us to believe that the Lions are just not going to have any problems with that, right? You lose two of the most veteran players on your offensive line, including the one that's most in charge of protection. It'd be silly for us to even expect them to just hum along and be fine, right? There's going to be some bumps in the road. Even Dan Campbell bringing up the Erik McCoy example, he's like, it can happen pretty quick. But also it didn't happen until like game 4 or 5. And so that leaves 3 or 4 games where it's just like, okay, what did those look like? What is that going to look like when you're opening against Green Bay in Lambeau? What's it going to look like when you're in Baltimore a couple of weeks after that? Like, and that's assuming that Tate Ratledge is at center, and we're going to get into that in a second. But yeah, it's a fair question from John, and it's one that it's hard for us to answer right now because we just don't know how it's going to work out.
Yeah, we have to see it. We have to see what happens in camp. They've certainly positioned themselves to be able to sustain a big body blow like this, and so it's just a matter of have the preparations that they've made. Can they, pan out as quick as they need them to?
Right. That's the thing, and I wrote about this in Pride of Detroit Direct today, is like they've done everything they possibly could to absorb this. Yeah. And in the long term, it could look really good. The problem is there's going to be some short-term turbulence, and that's something they couldn't have really avoided. And who knows what that looks like this year.
Yeah. We'll expand more on this, I'm sure, because I'm sure there's more questions.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with a question that mostly everyone asks, which is, I want to split this into two different questions. Who do you think will play center this year, and who do you think should play center? And are those going to be different for you?
I don't know if they're going to be different. I don't think they are. Again, without having seen how they do in camp, I'm just going to go with what I think is going to happen. And I think that's if I think what I think is going to happen is also what I think will happen, because that's the way I think, right? I always think what I think is.
You always think you're right.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's what makes me so good at what I do. I just assume I'm right all the time. No, but in all seriousness, I do think they envision Tate Ratledge as the future center.
Yeah.
I just don't know if, one, he can pick up that transition fast enough. I think he's capable. But again, we have to see it. And two, it just makes a lot of sense to me to utilize Graham Glasgow because to replace Frank, because Graham has experience, intelligence, and Campbell went on and on about having that veteran that can show him the ropes. And so I think that they're going to play Graham this year, even though I think maybe a year from now that might not be the case.
Yeah.
But to start the season, my expectations on who's going to win out, I expect Graham, the professional, the oldest man on the roster, to be the guy that they end up going with at center.
I definitely felt that way for about 3 days before Dan Campbell's press conference, because it makes the most sense, right? Like everything you just said. You have a veteran who's played the position a lot. It's a critical position. It's one that involves a lot of knowledge of the game at the NFL level, a lot of knowledge of, your divisional opponents' schemes, which I don't think Tate has a deep understanding of yet.
It's a lot on his plate. Yeah.
But then Dan comes out and says, like, hey, listen, this center thing people can figure out in a hurry. Hey, as long as we have someone on the offensive line that has a lot of experience anywhere along the offensive line, I think we'll be okay. And I was just like, and plus, like, Tate's been playing center pretty much the entire spring. Like, not quite exclusively, but pretty darn close to exclusively.
Sure.
And as that mountain of evidence continues to build up, I'm like, are they going to do it? Are they really going to put Tate as a rookie at center to replace one of the arguably the best center this franchise has ever seen? That is a tremendous task, and I think what I learned is they are definitely going to give him the opportunity.
Yes.
Like I don't think we're gonna like go into training camp and then it's gonna be like, well, that didn't work out, so Tate, you're right guard now. We're not even gonna try center the rest of no. This is going to be a true camp battle, I think. And they are going to, like, if he makes enough progress, I do think they would pull the trigger on it, even if it feels haphazard a little bit.
No, I agree with you. I don't get me wrong. It wouldn't surprise me if Tate ends up being the center. I just think with the amount that you have to learn, the experience that he has at right guard, how well he fits at right guard, and how well Graham fits at center, especially with, his age and just his he declined last year. Was it injury? Was it not? Like, I think a shift to center could be valuable to him because he could get protected by having dirt bags on either side of him. But it wouldn't surprise me. I just think it's hard enough to come in as a rookie and start in the NFL. It's even at a position that you've been playing for 4 years, much less switching to a position that you haven't played and all of the knowledge and stuff that goes with it. I am not surprised they gave him every snap at OTAs and every snap at, or, basically every snap at rookie minicamp. I'm not surprised by that at all. But I think when training camp comes, you're going to see them switch.
Yeah.
You're going to see a rotation between them. They're going to alternate days, and because they're going to want to have Tate get experience at guard. Because if they just keep putting him at center, well, then you're putting all your eggs in one basket, and
Right.
I don't think they're going to do that. I think they'll start the rotation. They'll, every sixth day or whatever, they'll have someone else start
Yeah.
at center. Right? But I fully expect the rotation, and when that rotation happens, that's going to slow down, Tate's learning curve a little bit. And again, nothing against the kid. I just think it's a huge amount of information and skill to try and put on it on a rookie's plate, and that's why I'm going with the veteran.
Well, part of the evaluation outside of training camp is going to be the preseason, which leads us into Dan Pesk's question, who asks, do you think our offensive line plays in the preseason, or who on the offensive line is going to get those snaps? I think this is it's a really fascinating question, because I think if you would have asked it 2 weeks ago, you'd be like, none of the starters are going to play in the preseason. Why would they? But now, there's going to be a pretty strong effort to get chemistry going as quickly as possible. And yes, they have the 3 practices that they'll have with other teams of joint practices.
Mm-hmm.
But is that going to be enough for them to not play any of these potential starters in the preseason?
I am going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say the only projected 5 starters that we have right now, I'm going to say the only 2 that play in the preseason are Mahogany and Tate Ratledge. That's it. I think they're the only 2, and I think Tate plays all his snaps at center in the preseasons. And Graham doesn't play. Yeah. Pane doesn't play. Taylor Decker. Play.
If Taylor Decker is playing, something has gone terribly wrong.
Right? I don't think they're not gonna push Graham at all. They're not gonna want him to take. I think it's just gonna be Tate. Get as much experience at center as you can in the preseason. Christian, show me that you got more than 2 games. Show me, put more on your resume. Yep. And then it's just going to be between Coyote, Moody, and Frazier. Who played best? You get to start.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And all of those guys are obviously going to play in the preseason as well, right?
Yeah.
And
fight for jobs.
And then you probably have as your tackles. I would if it were to start. I have to imagine you'd have Dan Skipper at right tackle and
Manu
at left.
At
tackle.
left.
Yep.
Tamarco Jones at left, and then Colby at right, and those are your 4 tackles.
Yep.
And then you have a massive battle at guard and center.
Before we move on, I want to bring up Kingsley, because I feel like there's a little bit of groundswell of hey, don't forget about Kingsley Iguaki.
Sure. Certainly helps when Dan says your name.
Right.
Now,
I think we can both agree him as a starter is not really in this conversation at all, right?
I think Kingsley will be, when Tate leaves the field, I think Kingsley is the starter that takes the center snaps next.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's fair to say
ahead of Michael Neese.
Yes, I agree. And I think if you want to pick a winner from all this, Kingsley's roster chances shot up pretty tremendously after this move, right? Maybe you would even consider him on the inside looking out instead of the outside looking in. But the work still has to be done, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, he and Neese, and Coyote and Moody, they're battling for one spot probably. Right. And he's in that mix, firmly in that mix now.
Yep.
And look, the talent was there. He got better as the season, as the training camp went on. He got better as the preseason went on. And now he's had a year in the system. We haven't seen him since, but he's got a real opportunity in front of him at training camp, because if he can make the roster and all of a sudden things open up quite a bit and you have options, a lot more options than what you would have thought.
Because then theoretically you have Tate as your Frank Ragnow replacement, and then you have Iguaki as your Graham Glasgow replacement, and you've suddenly gotten a lot younger and cheaper.
Right, and you still have Frazier sitting there, and
Yep.
you've started Mahogany, and yes, you've got four guys that are in the first 2 years of their contracts, all in prominent roles, and that's the youth movement that Brad Holmes said that they were trying to accomplish the last two off seasons.
Yep. It's something that had to happen eventually. It certainly got accelerated, maybe a little bit quicker than they wanted, but that's.
But I tell you, it explains why they brought three centers in last year after the NFC Championship. They were like, "Hey, we brought three centers in, let them battle it out." I'm sure that was all part of the plan. Get them in, let them develop, see who can win. Kingsley was the guy who they gave the most money to. They expected to win. He clearly won it.
Yep.
Not just by the fact that he made the roster and the other two didn't, but like from what we saw with our own eyes, he clearly won it. And so it look, they've again also this also points to them saying, they've been kind of laying the groundwork. They weren't caught by surprise, and all of a sudden you've got four young players that are just kind of like, who's going to step up? And it's exciting, but also, nerve-wracking.
A little terrifying. All right, last question before we go to break, and I want you to treat this as a complete hypothetical because I think we both know that this isn't going to happen. But sure. Clarence Odebody asks, you're Brad Holmes and you want to ensure the Lions are contenders this season. Are you trading for an edge or are you trading for a center? So in this scenario, Brad Holmes has thrown hey, we're building to be a long-term contender. This is just, hey, and maybe a better way to ask it is, if you are just prioritizing 2025, what improves the roster more? A starting center or a starting edge?
Edge.
You think so?
Yeah. Look, even because you can always use depth. Like there's you have an edge rusher and Davenport, but you can't count on him. There's Za'Darius Smith is just hanging out in Detroit wearing his big old Lions ring, talking about wanting to resign, and you've got some youth there, and you've got some veterans that performed well for you last year, and so there's options. Always use depth. With center, I think they're ready to sink or swim with what they got, and they're going to.
But they don't have to. If you trade for a center, you could be like, hey, Tate, 2026, circle that.
Nah, because I don't think it's as clean. I don't think it's as easy because the path they have now helps prepare them now, but also in the future. And I know the question is based in now, but Brad Holmes doesn't think in the now. He thinks in both now and the future. And so the plan they have is a plan that they've been setting up for 2 years, and it's a setup to continue to help them now and in the future. Plus, it's all part of this process of developing. With edge, you always need edge guys. So I'm taking edge.
I think I would take center, and it's just a matter of keeping the strength on this team a strength. It's right now, there's a lot of questions on how the interior is going to shake out. If you can just push everyone back down one spot on the depth chart, I'd feel a lot better, not only about the starting group, but I'd feel better about the depth. And we know how much injuries an offensive line goes through in a season. Not to say they don't on edge, too. They certainly do and did last year. But if Graham Glasgow is suddenly like maybe not even a guaranteed starter on the team, I'm going to feel a lot better about where the offensive line is at. If I have a guy that is called out protections and all that sort of stuff, assuming like this theoretical trade is for an upper level guy, not just like an average guy, an upper level guy, that to me ensures that this team is not going to take a step back on offense. And that is the key for this team to be a Super Bowl contender. I don't think, as confident as I am about the defense, and I'm weirdly confident about it, they're not going to get as far as they need to be if the offense takes any sort of significant step back. And so getting a center you can trust is a pretty big move at this point.
That's, I think, another part of the equation for me is I don't think there's a center that would even be considered as a trade
Oh
candidate.
no,
that
there
the Lions
isn't.
would even okay.
Yeah,
So
this
we're
is
talking
why I'm
about
treating it
we're talking about
completely
player
hypothetical.
X.
Yes, in a
So
vacuum.
would you trade for but again, I'm still not changing off. If we're talking about signing, let's say, a Pro Bowl center versus a Pro Bowl edge, I'm still taking the edge.
That's fair. I just is Jason Kelsey really out of retirement? That's all I'm asking. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to get to some Za'Darius Smith questions and a whole lot more. When we come back, we're back on the midweek mailbag. We'll be right back. What's up, everybody? I've been seeing a lot of really good questions in the chat, and a lot of the chat has already scrolled up past them. So if you do have some questions, throw them in the chat again, whether you're on Twitch or YouTube. I'm seeing it all. Before I get to any of those, I'm going to read off some alerts. But good to see you all back during this dead time of the off season. It's hard to think that this is just the beginning of all of that, but hey, what is it? We'll be back a little bit earlier than expected, thanks to the Hall of Fame game. We're really only 5 weeks away, ish, from returning.
We'll see.
We're not allowed to say any dates that we may or may not know.
I mean, like we're expecting to come back earlier, right? So
yes,
but how early? I don't know.
Well, we do know, but we're not allowed to say. And I think they typically announce in June, so
yeah,
you guys should know pretty soon. Well, sorry, I don't mean to lord information over our audience. I do actually a little bit. I was
trying to be nice, but I mean it's not a huge difference. So
yeah,
but it's earlier. We all expected it to be earlier, because of the Hall of Fame game. So
for sure. All right. It's not Wagon Maker.
It does feel like everything is moving very fast, though.
It does.
Even though, it's supposed to be minicamp right now, and the other teams are going through minicamp, I've already shifted to off season,
right?
Off season, and then I'm like, gosh, we're gonna be back so soon. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So.
Wagon Maker, thank you for the 22 months. Says, do you think the fallout from losing 2 starting offensive linemen will be a less efficient Jared Goff and more predictable run game? I'm bracing myself. It's so hard to say. I don't think it's going to be a more predictable run game because they were a pretty heavy run team last year, right?
Right. And Gibbs by nature is just hard. He's going to always be hard to handle. I don't think they're going to change their scheme. I believe they have the athletes to do what they need to do. And so I don't think it's going to be as far as the run game, I don't think it's going to be that big of a change. There's going to be some things, but I don't know. What we got to see it, right? I mean,
right. And plus,
there's a possibility, but I don't know. I feel like they have so much talent,
right?
And it's not unheard of to see rookie guards come in and just ball out. So that happens all the time,
right? They still have the other 9 players intact. Several of them still in their second or third or fourth season, so could be taking another jump. And to me, when you have such a smart quarterback, and let's not forget Jared Goff's role in pre-snap stuff. That is something that the Lions have focused on a lot over his 4 years here. It's something he's improved upon. Yes, there's probably going to be more on his shoulders now, but he's been heading in that direction anyways. And when you have this many weapons that are arguably top 5 at their position, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, maybe Jameson Williams enters that conversation. You got other guys you've invested in that position. You're bringing back, man, I can't think of anybody's name today.
You mean skill player wise or offensive line wise?
Skill players.
the skill players
it's a
are
flaw,
pretty much
but-
a return, right?
Yeah.
Like you return all your skill players plus you added 2 more.
Right.
And then on the offensive line, you added 2 rookies. And yes, I mean, you really are only changing a couple of spots on offense. And it seems very dramatic because there were 2 really good players that they've lost, but again, I think they've planned for it. The talent is good. Like from what I saw of Mahogany, I'm expecting him. I think he has a really high ceiling. From what I saw of Tate Ratledge studying him, I think he is exactly what they wanted to fit on the line. And so, can Graham bounce back and be injury free? Can Tate get up to speed? I think everything points to him being able to do that. Can Mahogany, it's all the pieces are kind of there. It's just we got to see it, right? Like
For sure. Yep.
I mean, I was watching what game was I watching the other day?
Lions Packers 2022.
Nope. Lions Packers.
What?
Lions Packers 2024. But it was it was the one where it was 4th and short with like 40 seconds left,
Yeah.
and it's like, do you kick the field goal or do
Right.
you just run it?
Jared
And
Goff
I was
falls
thinking,
down on the handoff.
yes, and I was thinking, do they have the offensive line to get the 6 inches? Are you going to be as confident in that situation? And I'm like, I think they will, because I think that's just their mentality. Like
Right.
it's what they do, and they're going to expect those guys to play at that level, and and so I think they still do. I think it's the coaching mentality, the ideology, the team toughness, I still think they go for that call.
Yeah.
So.
I think you're probably right. But they're also going to adapt to their strengths and weaknesses, right? Like that's something they talk about all the
certainly.
time. It's something every coaching staff talks about, right? Is like it's our jobs to accentuate our players' strengths and hide their weaknesses. And that's going to be true of the offensive line too. It has been true of the offensive line. We just don't know exactly what that's going to look like, what the strengths and weaknesses are going to be.
And if you look at what the anticipated strengths are based on the guys, but based on like looking at these guys studying and whatnot, not a lot should change. Like they brought these guys in because they fit that style of play.
Yep. Sports Turf Pro, then give it 26 months, says, hey gang. What's up, Sports Turf Pro? Thanks for stopping by. Subron 6 months says, prime reminder. Thanks, Jeremy and Erik, for sharing your 1 month off season with us. Yeah, of course. Prime reminder. That's a yes. If you have Amazon Prime, you can come over to Twitch, create a free account, link that Amazon Prime account to your now free Twitch account. And guess what? You can subscribe to us on Twitch for free, which means you get an ad-free experience over on Twitch, which means you get all of our fun little emotes that you can see in the chat over there. Means you start accumulating channel points quicker, which can get you to use them to make us do silly things. And most importantly, it's a way to financially support us that doesn't cost you a single cent other than, this money you're using on Amazon Prime, which you're probably using for a million other different reasons. So even if you're on YouTube and you want to support us in a way that isn't really going to cost you anything, it's a cool way to do it. There we go. Thanks for the reminder to remind people, Subron. Appreciate that. The Honolulu Cheese Podcast. Our good friends over there, the NFC North podcast that I've been on a couple times. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Appreciate that, fellas. Nick the Greek, 100 bits, and then another 100 bits to finish his thought here. Says, any truth to the rumor that prior to his decision to retire, Frank Ragnow took a trip to Germany and did mushrooms and DMT with a former Lions beat writer? I think it's much more likely that Graham did that than Frank. No, sir. I only have Prime for my POD subscription. So you're paying, what is it, like $120 a year just to subscribe to us on Twitch, when it would cost you less than that to just be what is it? It's $6 a month now on Twitch. What are you doing over there, buddy?
I got one of my cords unplugged.
No. All right. Let me let me scroll back and answer some of these questions. Any chance we see a Manu, Mahogany, Kingsley, Tate, Skipper offensive line? So Manu at left, Mahogany at left guard, Kingsley at center, Tate at right guard, Skipper at right tackle.
I mean, there's a chance if Kingsley shows out that week. I do think they're going to give the right guard spot to whoever earned it. So I would say maybe Kingsley, if he's having a great week at center, or if maybe he has a great week at guard, he could be out at guard and Tate could be. I think Kingsley is going to be. He's going to get an opportunity to show that he's playing at his best, and they'll reward the guys that are doing well that week. So
yeah,
could happen.
It's in the realm of possibility. I almost don't want them to play Christian Mahogany in the preseason a little bit. Like they have to, but like that interior offensive line is way thinner than it felt like a week and a half ago. You know, there's still some guys that maybe
I don't
overlooking.
see it that way. I know that's the easy way to look at it, and I know that's the most common way to look at it, is saying, okay, it is thinner because you lost an All-Pro,
right?
Right. I get that,
and there are bodies there, but it's the inexperience that bothers me because, like, yes, you have Muti as like a veteran. Sure. Yes, you have
Coyote.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. But
Nice.
other than Nice, doesn't have a ton of playing experience, but has been around a couple of years.
Yep.
But then you're just talking about a bunch of rookies.
Nope, I feel you. But there are a couple rookies that I just love, and I'm excited to see them.
Well, yeah.
And I'm looking at Mahogany and Ratledge as guys that I identified like last year.
Sure.
Or, over the last two drafts as guys that I was like, man, these guys are good fits. I love the dirtbag monikers that they carry. Like these two guys play my style of offensive line. What I want to see, the bully ball, like it's there. And so I'm very excited to see them. And it definitely, look, I'm not trying to sugarcoat losing Frank. It sucks. And the offensive line is not going to be as good without Frank, of course. But I'm also just giddy over getting a chance to watch these two young guys play. Like I'm going to have my eyes on the guards or those interior three, and I'm just going to, I'm excited to see what happens there.
I'd be surprised at training camp if you watch any other position than offensive line the entire time. I'm just going to have to cover every single other position, and you're just going to be stuck on the way side of the field. Usually they hide the offensive lineman from us too, and you're just going to find a way to sneak over there.
There's so much fun because like there's still the Aiden Pane matchup,
of course,
which is the best one-on-one matchup in the NFL. You cannot have. There's no team that can put out two players that are at the pinnacle of their positions, where they're both top 5 athletes, if not top 2, top 3 guys at their position, and have them square off. Like no one else can do that. And so it's an absolute luxury to get to watch those. It's a huge privilege. And we're not even talking about that. We're talking about all these other spots that are exciting and fun, and the question marks and the potential, the optimism. Is a lot of fun. A lot of fun on the offensive line this year.
For sure. Another question on the offensive line from JZS: where does Sorsdal fit? And I think the answer now is OT5.
Yeah.
I
mean, he's probably OT4, but they're really going to push Manu.
Yeah, and it seems like he's left tackle 2 right now.
Well,
which is a jump.
I think he's only left tackle 2 because Skipper can play both sides, right? Like,
sure.
and so.
But he's consistently repped on that side, in particular, since he's been in the building.
Oh yeah, they're going to run him at left all the time.
Right.
I don't think they're going to move him off left. And if you want him, it's kind of like why did Tate get all his reps at center in the spring? It was the same reason Manu's LT2, right? Because you want him to get that exposure.
So
you're
saying that could change once we get to training camp. We might see him in.
It's possible we might see him on third string, LT third string, or if he can earn it, he can. Look, he's got it. If he's taken the steps that they've said he's taken, he could easily bump up to LT2 and shift. And if that happens, watch out, because if it clicks for him, he's a monster. He's just so big and athletic. I'm not even counting him in my young offensive lineman to watch. I'm not even including him because I don't even think. And if he all of a sudden becomes someone that I want to watch, there's going to be 5 young guys. Oh man.
This is what I was talking prior to Detroit Direct. Like they have started to take those steps to do the changing of the guard that needs to happen at some point.
They certainly have. But if he actually takes a step this year and not the year after, oh man,
then we get into the conversation that I've already started to bring up a little bit.
Is this offensive line deeper than it's ever been? Like that question's going to come up.
Well, I think you have to have a Taylor Decker conversation in 2026.
We're not talking about that.
But I guess that was the point I made in the newsletter, which is like it is fully possible the Lions have their offensive line of the future here in building already.
Yeah, I got to see it. I got to see it.
Of course, you have to see it.
He looked so bad.
Yes.
In the fall or last
Of
summer.
Course, I'm just saying like that in and of itself to me is an incredible feat. That's even a possibility. If you're talking about in a post Taylor Decker, post Graham Glasgow, post Frank Ragnow world, you already might have all 3 of those replacements on your roster. That's wild.
I'm not even thinking about Manu, like at all. And it's like my expectations are so low that if he's LT2, I'm going to be like, watch out. Like then I'm really going to start getting even more excited about the offensive line. If all of a sudden he's like a second stringer.
I'm not
there
you're
yet.
So anti-Canadian.
Those wildfires got to my allergies.
Fair. That's fair. All right, let me get to some other questions here. I haven't heard much on Rodrigo, but how's his injury status and where does he fit in the defense? So Dan did give an update on that last Thursday, right?
He said like conservatively,
November.
And then he paused and then he's like, okay, conservatively, that's the right way to say it, November. I think it's going to be earlier than that. But I think he's really playing it slow.
Yeah.
Because he got hurt in November, basically. And I know it can take up to a year, but I also, he's young. He's not super heavy. I think we'll see. Everybody recovers different.
Yeah. But the Lions tend to wait longer than most teams, right? And
sure. But he's also in a contract year, and he's going to want to get on the field.
True.
So, if I'm a betting man, I'm betting October, but could be November.
Jay-Z just says two running back sets. Don't tease me with
we always hope for that, right?
They were so excited both when they drafted Jir Gibbs and last season about using him more as a wide receiver and using him like that was a focus last offseason before he got injured, which was like, hey, let's have him line up outside more and learn more about running routes, not from the backfield, but from out wide. Mm-hmm. And I do wonder if now that Jir is healthy and they trust him a lot more and I wouldn't say he's mastered everything from the backfield, but certainly looks pretty darn good there. Now seems like a pretty good time to put some more on his plate.
I'm looking for a Amon-Ra, J-Mo, Lovett, Gibbs, and Vaky offensive skill set. And just line up, Line up with both in the
Love it.
backfield. Yep, love it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You can call it Khalif if you want. That's fine. We'll go Khalif because he's the vet.
Sure.
But put those two guys in the backfield with those little speed demons and a sure thing like Amon-Ra. You have somebody open all over the field. You have multiple people open. Just snap the ball and it's like pick your poison.
You sound like you're running a flag football team at that point.
Oh, you worried about pass? You worried about pass pressure? Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing.
Jared Goff needs someone to be open.
Just get the ball out quickly and let one of those guys do his magic after the catch, right? Like Jir Gibbs after the catch, J-Mo after the catch.
Do that. They have so many after the catch guys. It's awesome.
Karen asked about my vacation. Just quickly, I don't want to indulge a lot of this because most of you are here for Lions talk, not me talk. I went to Sedona with my sister, my mom, my brother-in-law, and my two nieces. It was great. Sedona, if you've never been, I would highly recommend it. It's this weird city in the middle of the mountains with pretty much nothing else around it. These big red mountains all around. It's gorgeous. It feels like you're deserted in a good way. And if you're a hiker, it's awesome. There are a lot of awesome hikes that are kind of unguided, which I like. Like you can just go wherever you want type of thing, which is a little bit terrifying, but mostly cool. And
sure. You don't want to have to bite your arm off or something, right?
Right. Ideally not. And then we just got an Airbnb with like the most awesome view. And it was funny because we arrived at night and we couldn't see anything. Like we couldn't see the mountains in the distance or anything like that. And we woke up and we looked outside the window and we're like, holy shit, this is crazy. So definitely would recommend a Sedona trip. We apparently like timed it perfectly because spring break's kind of nuts. And then like in 2 weeks, it's monsoon season. Like it's just raining all the time. So if you can go in that window, that early June window, it's a sweet spot. And then I came home and got my first hole-in-one in disc golf. That was cool too.
Everything's turning up, Jeremy.
Here we go. Turning the screws again. Woe is me.
Don't worry. I only had 2 of my kids graduating from their prospective schools this while you were on vacation.
Yeah, you get to be closer to your kids. Who couldn't want that more?
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could. I was writing articles instead.
Stop it. You wrote like 3 articles.
Get out of here. I wrote like 3 a day.
No, you didn't.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I did. It was exhausting. But, I do it for everybody else.
You're so...
My kids forgive me. My kids forgive me now.
You're such a martyr.
No, one of them... What?
Go ahead.
I was saying, one of them... I graduated today. One of my kids graduated today, my middle kid. And I was getting parents coming up to me and asking about Za'Darius. What are you hearing about Za'Darius, Erik? And I'm like, what? Oh, I'm just watching my kid graduate from elementary school, but that's cool. Yeah, let's talk. That was fun. It was a very joyous event, and people were excited. And people are excited about Za'Darius, but I don't want to talk too much because I'm pretty sure we have a question about him, right?
We sure do. This is a topic that you might be eager to talk about. Crumbs Oliver asked, how much should we expect from Sione Vaky this preseason?
Lots.
A ton.
Yeah, because you're not going to play Gibbs or Montgomery. And I think Craig's getting to the point where you know what he is. And you want Vaky to get experience. And it wouldn't be surprising to me if Vaky ends up starting a couple of those preseason games.
Oh, yeah.
And so I am expecting a heavy dose of Sione, and I tell you, I hope you're excited for it because I'm excited for it. Talk about a youth movement, young offensive line, Sione Vaky, preseason got a recipe for highly entertaining television.
It's honestly, it's true. Like, I still would have preferred they only had 3 preseason games, not 4. But like, there's gonna be a ton to watch.
Yeah,
Even with
play him in the
most,
first
if not
half.
all the starters not playing.
Wow. Especially 4 games of it.
A couple of people asking JMO questions. Mitchell Zoltan asks, would Brad extend JMO if it was at the expense of extending Brian Branch, which I know is a question that probably makes your stomach churn. And then
I almost threw up right there. I almost did. That's why I said no quickly, just so I could choke it back down.
Then Aaron asked, did we talk JMO extension already? If not, can we?
Bit.
Yeah, we talked it a little bit in terms
Touched
of
on it.
whether the Frank Ragnow retirement improves the chances, and I think we both agreed probably not much, if at all. But I think my stance on the JMO extension is depends on what happens this year. Yeah.
Yep.
Like this is a big year for him, and if the Lions are clearly putting a lot of expectations on his shoulder, and if he can live up to those, then yeah, he'll have worked his way into an extension. I don't think they would hesitate to do it, but he's got to do it.
Yep.
What else we got? Texas routes.
Oh man, I tell you, if you want to go back to my 5 receiver set, you just you run.
Everyone run Texas route. All 5.
No. You run 1 Texas, 1 on a 15, like a 10 or 15 yard little post, 2 verticals, wheel.
Okay,
You run a Texas with 1 back and a wheel with the other. Unstoppable. The 2
gotta have
best
an offensive
running back
line.
routes ever. You run a wheel with Gibbs in a or a wheel with Vaky and a Texas with Gibbs. Pick your poison, man.
Frank Ragnow retires and Jeremy's life is on the rise. Coincidence? What are you suggesting, Zern? What are you suggesting? I don't like that. Frank's my guy. As I put out on Twitter, I would really like Frank to have a retirement press conference. It would kind of be his style not to do so.
I think that's why he hasn't filed yet.
Yeah. Like,
Because
I
believe they're going to do it during training camp.
Yeah.
They're going to put on a little show. They're going to have him come in. They're going to have him talk to us. They'll file the paperwork then. Yeah. That's my guess.
Or they'll schedule it for this weekend so I can't go. I missed a couple things during the week that I was gone, and I'm not really happy about either of them, to be quite honest. Well, I missed 3 things. One I knew I was going to miss, which was OTA. And it turned out that was essentially a walkthrough anyway, so big deal. But there were a couple other things, media opportunities, that I was bummed I missed out on. And obviously the Frank thing. Anyways, yeah. It is what it is. Nick the Greek, 100 bits, says, I was looking at the 2026 cap numbers, and it looks like there are huge base salaries for Goff, Pane, Amon-Ra, and Decker, among others. I know the salary cap is not a, quote, fictitious social construct, but are the concerns about 2026 space a bit overblown, particularly given the amount of potential rollover from this year?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, is that there's going to be a ton rolled over, which is going to take a ton of that red away next year. But they're still going to be in the red, which means they're still going to have to do some sort of maneuvering. But we've talked about this in previous mailbags, that it's only going to take restructuring like one of those guys in order, and it's probably Goff.
It's almost certainly Goff.
It could be Pane, because again, Pane, you're never cutting Pane. Right. All you're doing is paying him more and more and more, and that's fine. Pane is, I would just keep extending Pane, and then when he retires, like have like a $200 million in voided years. Like, you know what I mean? And
dead
just be like,
there's
we're gonna shut down for 1 year because we had to keep Pane.
It's just an
keep
in
Pane.
memoriam for Pane Sewell season with $400 million in dead cap.
Because I would never let him go ever. Like, yeah,
that's fair, sort of.
So I would always think extend Pane first, but that Goff contract is just staring at you like as an anomaly. It's a weird one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if your concern is that the Lions aren't going to be able to get out of their cap situation, I think that's an over-exaggeration of the response. There is still going to be some of the trouble of extending everyone that they want to extend, but again, like, if the players perform to a point where the Lions don't have a choice, they're going to make it work. And that might mean making further seasons more and more difficult. Like we said with JMO, if JMO makes their decision easy in the fact that they have to re-sign him, like he's like a number one receiver type, I think they would be willing to dig into the future a little bit more than maybe they would be right now.
There are 9 teams in the red next year already. Like, that's just part of it. The Lions have the most with 54 million. Next, the Vikings at 53.7. They're basically almost the same.
Right.
The Browns, because they're dumb and they don't know how to manage the cap. And then the Chiefs. Again, these are 3 playoff teams. Then the Saints, because they didn't do it right the first, 10 years, and then now they're still trying to get out. And then even the Bears are in the red next year. 3 of the 4 division teams in the North are all in the red already. So it's not uncommon. It's solvable. It's just it's not ideal, but it's the price you pay when you draft so well and have to keep everybody.
Yep.
Or try and keep everybody.
Speaking of drafting well, Lions Live 365 asks, chances Ahmed Hassanin and Broderick Martin make the team.
Hassanin, 100%.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't even watched the kid play a snap.
Wow.
But his personality and the fit and the culture and just the like I said earlier about the edge, like, you just need that rotation. I have zero doubts he's going to
look
make
at
the
you
team.
Talking in absolutes.
Zero. I know, it's rare. Broderick Martin, yeah, you got a long way to go, buddy.
You're not going to say 0, right? You're not going to just go.
No. But I'm in the. I'm closer to thinking Manu is LT2 than Broderick is making the team, and so.
Oh yeah.
But I'm not, and I just told you how not confident I am that Manu is going to be LT2.
Right.
But I'm more confident in that than I am that Broderick's got. They've basically signed and drafted to a spot that it doesn't appear that they're counting on him doing much.
Right.
He's going to have to jump a couple of guys.
Right.
He's athletic in the size, the frame, it's all there. But it's the same MO on him every time. Can't get his pad level down. Can't do this. Pad level is the first thing that every single person says. They've changed D-line coaches the last 3 years. Every one of them. Yeah, it's his pad level. This is pad. Aaron Glenn. It's his pad level. If it clicks, awesome. I don't know. It's got to click. He's on his last rung. Right. Whereas I think Manu's got a bunch more.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it speaks to the moves that they made this offseason. It speaks to the fact that we're down on his roster chances, despite the fact that Aleem McNeil is going to start on PUP.
Yeah, like
that'll help him, but not by much, because like you said, he's going to have to jump at least one person. Like he's going to have to jump at least Roy Lopez, and I don't think he's going to jump Roy Lopez.
At best, he's defensive tackle 6 right now. At best. And so, are they going to keep? And that's if you're counting Levi as an edge, because you're kind of counting Levi. If you count Levi inside, then he's at best DT 7. So, to get to a spot, let's just exclude Levi and just say, okay, he's got to beat Tyleek, DJ Reader, Roy Lopez, Wingo, Pat O'Connor. Like, it's
even
a
like
tough
Chris
road.
Smith.
Those are all guys.
Like I think they like Chris Smith more than like Broderick Martin.
Yeah, well, they played Miles Adams ahead of him. They signed Miles Adams off the practice squad in Seattle, and then was like, all right, Miles, you're going to play because Broderick's not ready still. And so, like, I think Broderick's can be better than him. I think Broderick has the talent to beat Chris Smith. They love Chris Smith's work ethic, man. Like, that boy, he works. Right? It's impressive. And that's what everyone always just gushes over him. And so, I think he's capped on his development, though.
Sure.
Like he's I don't know how much better he can get than what he is. Now what he is an NFL player. The question is, where is he fit in your rotation, right? Now Broderick I think has a higher ceiling, but again, he hasn't shown the ability to even sniff that ceiling yet.
Yep. If
the light bulb clicks, he could pass Smith, he could pass Adams, he could pass O'Connor. But and that's what he's going to need to do. He need to pass all of them. Again, if it clicks, he'd need it to be Reader, Lopez, Wingo, Tyleek, and Levi spending a lot of time outside, and then they just decide they want to keep. Then they need to keep a third nose tackle. Actually, it would kind of be like a fourth nose tackle, but still,
that's what I'm saying. Like, even if he jumps all those players, are you keeping an NT3?
He'd have for me, for it to click, it would mean he's doing more than just being nose tackle.
Right.
That's what I mean by click.
Right.
Like you can't. He could. Yeah, no, he can't even play nose tackle right now. But he's closer to being in the nose tackle rotation. The problem is there's 3 nose tackles ahead of him that are better right now.
Yes.
So he's got to flash some of those pass rushing chops. You've got to also, for him to make the roster, he's got to not only be able to get his pad level down, but he's got to show a little push. Right. And he's got the strength. He's got the strength. He's got the size. He's got the athleticism, but he's too easily moved and too easily leveraged, and
it has to come together now or never.
Yeah.
D-Ray asks, how soon do you think Alex will be back, or do you think he will continue to sit out? It's hard to say because him sitting out OTAs is not abnormal.
Who did you say, Alex?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we haven't even heard from him yet, right? Like he hasn't said anything publicly other than a lot of hinting and
cryptic,
a lot of
cryptic. I'm awesome. No one can do what I do.
Right. And so like it's a
boisterous. Yeah,
it's a fair assumption that he wants a new contract. There is a report that is what he's looking for. Whether you want to believe it or not at this point, go for it. So it's hard to answer that question. I don't think Alex would rule that out.
I don't think he would be posting all the stuff that he's posting if he wasn't.
Right. And if that's the case, then I think he would, if it gets to it, then I think he would consider holding out into training camp. I mean, the other possibility is that the Lions come to an agreement with him, which I think is very much within the possibility in the next 6 weeks. I think the Lions absolutely love the guy and would be willing to pay him a little bit more. And I think it probably would be worth it, honestly.
It really just depends on what they what their plans are for Derek.
Sure. Don't forget about Derek.
Yeah.
Yes, Nick the Greek. Ragnow retired because he missed Matt Patricia so much. That's right.
Oh boy.
I feel like there was another good question in there.
It was Matt Patricia who and Bob Quinn who drafted him, and that's what really turned the franchise around, according to Bill Belichick.
Isn't Wingo going to start on PUP 2? Maybe. He said the target was for him to be ready by training camp. We'll see if that actually turns out to be true or not.
Yeah, I don't think it was as significant as Aleem's, right? Like it wasn't the same type of injury. So.
Yeah. We did read that one, Nick the Greek, and I suggested Graham Glasgow was more likely to do that than Frank. Set the odds on Alex and Hutch getting an extension first. I think because there's more urgency with Alex, right? You could theoretically ride Hutch out until next year.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, in theory. I would lean more towards Hutch getting it done, though.
Yeah.
Because I think it's something they've been working on. And
for sure. I mean, when the team president goes out to a luncheon and says, "Don't worry about Hutchinson, we're going to have him locked in for the long term."
Can I tell you, like with Hutchinson, it wouldn't shock me at all, if the deal was done and they waited to training camp to announce it so that he could have the spotlight. Because
the first day of training camp, like he comes in.
That's on Brant.
Driving the Brinks truck.
First day, yeah, he is a marketing maniac. It's all part of the plan. It's all part of the Hutch brand. And I would not be surprised if they have something set up to really capitalize on he drives the Brinks truck in. It's on NFL Network. It's on ESPN. It's all it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be social media. His sisters are going to be standing on top singing the national anthem, and the fireworks will go off. And they'll walk out and they'll throw bags of money at the media, but it'd be like fake money. It'd be like Hutch money.
A couple of the kids that he's supporting just holding sacks with dollar signs on them.
Yeah. And then there's like chocolate coins with Hutch's face embedded into the chocolate. People are taking pictures and posting them on social media.
I hope he's watching. This is a great idea. I think he'd be down for all of these things.
They're gonna have something. This isn't going to be by the way, welcome to day one of the NFL draft. Yeah. We also signed Pane Sewell, Amon-Ra, and Jared Goff all today.
It's not going to be a Friday news drop.
No. There's going to be an event.
Now that I say that, he's gonna literally announce it this Friday. All right.
He's one of the best marketers I've ever seen. He's very good, and his family is all about promoting his brand. And so, yeah, they're gonna have it all done up.
All right, let's get back to the show here.
Hold on. Let me get some water while you get there.
Immediately makes a donation to U of M and they rename a building after him. They probably build a building. If you look at it from a helicopter, it's just his face. What happens for Za'Darius signs or inside the den drops? Good question. I'm going to go with inside the den. I think Za'Darius might be a guy that signs like right before training camp too. But we'll talk about that. I'm not even sure he's going to... I'm still not 100% sure Za'Darius re-signs with Detroit. But I certainly think it's more of a possibility than I did before.
Inside the den is for sure coming back first. But...
that'll still probably be a month.
Both are going to happen.
Hey, don't give away the milk before you... What is it? I don't know.
Don't give away the cow before the milk.
Sure.
No, I have no idea. It's made.
It's something like that. All right. Let me pull up the questions. Get back to this. Oh, there was a between segments question I wanted to do. Oh, well.
Oh, okay. Real fast.
Ted S. over on Pride of Detroit Direct. Hopefully you're watching in between segments. He just wanted to know, do you guys hear from any players or coaches that keep tabs on the podcast or articles? Would be curious what feedback you've gotten from members of the team. I do have one story like that, which was pretty cool. It was last year, Terry and Arnold's first season, and he came up and pulled me aside and be like, "Hey, I saw you on YouTube and like you know ball," and that was it. Like, I was kind of in shell shock of the moment because I'm like, first of all, for a rookie to go up to me and say something like that, I was just like, damn, that was mature of you and cool. And I don't know, maybe you're just trying to grease me up so that I say nice things about you, but it was certainly nice to hear. I'd never really got clarification on what he was referring to, what podcast or whatever it was, but that was definitely a satisfying moment because
it was probably one of the breakdowns that we did, and he probably like got us confused or something.
Probably. But no, I mean, like, if there's one thing
that's certainly
uber conscious of in this business is that there is a pretty huge information gap between media and players. I can try to bridge that all I want by watching as much film, reading as many books, asking as many questions to players and coaches and things like that, but there's still going to be a tremendous gap there. And so anyone who tells me that I'm on the right track that's on the inside, like that means a lot to me.
I've had like assistants tell me that they put my articles on their boss's desk, like Brad Holmes' desk or someone else's desk. I've had a coach talk to me about something I wrote during observations, saying that I was accurate, but that I gave away too much and to back it off. not to talk about that too much anymore. He said, you read that right. Now don't talk about it anymore because it's something we're trying to do. And I went, okay. I've had an agent send me a message that I was accurately portraying his client who was getting blamed on social media for a mistake. And I said, no, it wasn't his fault. It was this other thing. And I kind of broke it down, and I had the agent contact me. And now I'm pretty close with that agent, which is nice.
Yep.
So like it happens from a player's perspective, though. I haven't ever had a player tell me that like you had, where like, oh, you know ball like, but I have had more than one player tell me that they read our bubble charts
bubble watch.
We do. Yeah, the bubble watch that we do in training camp.
Uh-huh.
And I have had more than one player who we have had on the out come up to me and be like, you tell the rest of your crew to get their shit together because I'm making this team. I've had more than one player tell me that.
And one of those players was wrong.
One of those players was, I don't think they've ever been wrong that year. They might have been wrong the next year. I've had a couple of them. No, the one that you're thinking about, I know you're thinking about.
I know.
He made the team that year.
I guess.
And then he didn't make it the next. But yes. Yes. So I do know that some of the bubble guys read a lot of the press clippings. I don't think Amon Ra is ever going to come up to me and be like, hey, but I do. But it's not surprising to me that the bubble guys are looking at the press clippings.
That's got to be such a tough situation to be in, right?
So
because
hard.
like
so hard.
Dan Campbell is telling those guys, keep your head down, don't listen to any.
Yes, he
but
said
like
it on Hard Knocks. Right?
Yes, but at the same time, like
you have to be looking.
Sometimes you can't see the bigger picture like we can, right? Like a guy that's trying to make it as a gunner, as DB 10, isn't going to be that in tune with like how many offensive linemen they're going to keep and how that's going to affect the amount of players they can keep in his room. And so sometimes like resources like us, I can see why that'd be helpful to those people, even if Dan Campbell's screaming, just focus on what you can control.
Right.
The temptation has to be crazy because it's all you're thinking about is, will I make the team? Will I make the team? Will I make the team? And I'm not saying we're experts and we know better than he might, but in some...
but we've been covering patterns and how they make rosters up. We've been doing that. We've known this for a while.
The problem is if you're like a rookie or a second-year player, you can't delineate between the people who know how to create a 53-man roster projection and the people that don't.
That's true. Very true.
All right.
But yes. So they I don't know. There's not a ton of players that are reading it, but there are players that are reading it, and we have to be conscious of that when we write too, right?
A little bit, like
yes. No, but I mean we have to be courteous. Like we can't be like, this dude sucks. He's never going to make the team. Like that's rude because then it's hurtful.
It's a thing I talk about all the time, which is you have to know how to be critical without being insulting.
Right. Because the players can respect that.
Yeah.
Like if
not all of them will. Like some of them will still get pissed, right? If you're being critical of someone, there will be players that take that as disrespect, even if you're not being disrespectful. You're not trying to be disrespectful.
Sure.
But it's within our control to make it, again, like critical without being insulting.
Right.
There are egos in this game, right? You have to have a certain amount of confidence in yourself to even get this far in the NFL. And so any sort of like, hey, I don't think this guy's going to make the team is going to read as disrespect, even if you put it as softly as you possibly could.
Anyways. All right, I'm done interrupting you.
All right, let's get to it. We're probably going to have a very short off segment thing after the show because I actually have to drop Zazu off at our good friend Alex Reno's house tonight. So we're going to do that.
Send him out. Let him go. Tell him where to go.
Just open the front door?
Go Zazu. Find Alex.
Strap a Garmin to him. Is Garmin a reference that people even understand anymore?
I mean, you could just say like an air tag, and that would have been like better. But
definitely. All right, here we go. I'm gonna move this one up. Okay. And we are back here on the midweek mailbag, answering your Detroit Lions questions here on the Pride of Detroit podcast feed. Let's move back to one of our Pride of Detroit direct subscribers. And if you want to become one of those, go to prideofdetroit.com/subscribe. Get a whole bunch of exclusive content, Ty Shelter pieces, my pieces, monthly exclusive mailbag, and a whole bunch more. Carlos G is one of those subscribers and asks, we all love Laporta, who I expect to have a great year, but if J-Mo plays like many expect, how could the Lions choose to extend Laporta over giving J-Mo a new contract? And with that in mind, could Taslaw be a potential future replacement for Laporta's role in the passing game instead of being the type of replacement for J-Mo in the long term?
All right. A lot to unpack there. The difference between Laporta and J-Mo is that Laporta blocks. That's the massive difference, right? And so you can't compare them like 1-to-1. Like they're very different players. But how could you choose Laporta over J-Mo? Laporta can block. Like he plays in line. He can play out. He can play split out. Like there's less complete tight ends in this league than there are speed outside wide receivers, and so Laporta's actually a rare commodity than J-Mo, even though J-Mo has unmatched speed, right? There's maybe a player or two that can run at his level. But Laporta is one of like 8, complete tight ends in the NFL probably, right? And it's really hard to pass on those guys and not find a way to extend them. I think Tesla is a very different guy. I think the Lions are going to cultivate him not in to be like a JMO, but to be more of an X.
Yep.
I
With
think
Tim
he's going to
Patrick.
have a totally, yeah, he's going to have a totally different assignment base, skill set base. He's not going to be the field stretcher, even though he does really well stretching the field. I think he does it in a more conducive way that lends itself to the X. So I really don't see Laporta and JMO like they're not similar. And I also want to say Tesla and JMO aren't as close as I think some people want to believe. So I don't think they're going to try and utilize Tesla in a JMO kind of way. So it makes JMO unique. It makes him like an important person and a guy that could absolutely be extended. But I don't. When it comes down to it, if they were to choose between Laporta and JMO, I still think that they would go with Laporta because one, I think he's more rare, and two, he's going to cost less as well.
Yeah,
And
that was the
so
other point I was going to make.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I do agree with you. I think this team values tight ends a lot, and like you said, they're not as available of a commodity as wide receivers are. I mean, I don't think either of us are trying to downplay how unique of a player Jameson Williams is, and it's not. I mean, they spent a lot of resources to get him, so clearly they thought he was worth it, and I think they still probably do think he was worth all the draft capital that they spent to get up and get him. And it transforms their offense and all that sort of stuff, and all the things we were saying in the first segment, where it's just like he's more versatile now. He's going to be a key part of this offense, but there's so much that they rely on their tight ends too. And then, like, I think even if you go to just like something as simple as snap counts, Sam Laporta is going to play more often than Jameson Williams is. It's not going to be a huge difference, but it is going to be a difference because Sam Laporta is a 3-down bar none player. Jameson Williams isn't necessarily. Like, if they go into goal line, Jameson Williams might not be out there. Sam Laporta will be because they like his blocking. They like him on in so many different roles that it's not easy to replace that. It's going to cost a first round pick to replace that. You're not going to find someone on JMO's skill level outside of the first round, but you can certainly find someone who can fill that role. And I think that's the difference.
You look at how many players are drafted at each of those positions in any given draft, right?
Yeah.
It's triple the wide receiver. So you have a 3 times as likely of finding a guy like that. And again, they like JMO so much because he fits so well into what they want, but I still say I agree with you. It's easier to replace what he does as opposed to what Laporta does.
And one thing that's kind of been bothering me, and I understand where it's coming from, and there is a certain amount of this that the Lions are going to have to do, but there's been so many of these either or conversations now, right? Like, either J Morrow or Branch, or JMO or Laporta, or this guy or that guy. Like, let's leave some space for them to extend most, if not all of them. Mm-hmm. Again, like, if they prove it, if they make it hard enough for Brad Holmes to say no to some of these guys, he won't. I think it's going to be very rare that the Lions let go a clear blue chip player. I don't think that's going to happen. And I think Brad Holmes would be willing to take some concessions, whether it's with their depth or with some of their veteran players like an Alex Anzalone. Not saying the Lions are going to not re-sign Alex Anzalone, but if it comes to a place where it's like, okay, I can't say no to JMO, okay, I can't say no to Laporta or Brian Branch or any of these guys that will be coming up with new contracts, like, I think Brad would be willing to take on the hit of these young elite players over keeping maybe some of these older veteran guys.
That's really the conversation that should probably be had, is if you're going to 1-for-1 JMO versus somebody, stop comparing JMO versus the young guy that also needs a contract. Start comparing JMO versus Taylor Decker. Start comparing JMO versus David Montgomery. Start comparing JMO versus DJ Reader. It's it's tough.
Yeah.
versus Khalif Raymond. You know what I mean? Like, I
Sure.
mean, Khalif's getting up in age, but like you love him because he does so much, but his contract is huge right now.
Yeah.
So like that's probably the better conversation to have.
We talked about this a little bit off air, I think. It may have been on air. I don't remember at this point, but Jason Krolik asks, is there any reason to believe Giovanni Manu might be OT3 next season?
Oh man. It would hope. Like I'm not counting it on it. Right now, I think he's OT5 with a chance to be OT4, and for him to jump to 3, it would be very exciting. It would be a leap in production that I'm not anticipating and not expecting. If it does happen, I'm going to be jumping for joy and and writing about him a lot. Unnecessarily in my observation articles. I'm gonna be like, he was second team. Let's talk all about him. Here's 500 words on why he's playing second team. But I'm just not expecting it.
I respect your commitment to waiting until you see it with your own eyes. I think
yes,
that's the right way to go about it in most cases. But I do find it very interesting that you have him as OT5.
Yeah, till I see him.
So
That's how bad he was.
Is that below Jamarco Jones? Is that what that is?
No, it's below Colby.
Below Colby?
Colby was on the roster and was active more games than he was. He played better than the last time we saw Manu. Colby was better.
Yes. But I think like, okay, the things that we can take into account that make you think that he's already made that jump is one, that he's already repping as left tackle too.
Yeah, but that was OTAs. OTAs don't count.
They
don't.
They count.
No, they don't. Okay, so then Tate's the center. Lock it up. Let's go. Tate Ratledge, center.
But we can certainly take something from the fact that Tate Ratledge is playing center, right? It doesn't mean nothing.
Okay. Giovanni Manu getting second team reps at left tackle means they wanted to see him get second team reps at left tackle. That's about it. They wanted to see how far he had progressed.
You're also a guy that doesn't even like Dan Skipper that much, which is why I'm so like.
Oh yeah, no, but Dan's better. Dan was way better.
Okay,
Dan was way better than Gio was. I'm
just saying, like the jump to and here I'm not sure whether Jason, when he says next season, if he's talking about this upcoming season or the one after that.
I don't think it's regardless. It's the same answer.
I think if he's not OT3 by 2026, that's a disappointment. That's where I'm at.
Okay, I'm in the boat that he's going to be a disappointment until I see it. Like that's where I'm at, dude.
Wow.
I don't want to get hurt again.
Zero. I didn't realize you had zero faith in Hank Fraley. I thought you liked him.
I saw how much Manu struggled, and until he shows me he's taken any. What I saw was a guy who barely took a step. From the day one of training camp to the last day of training camp.
Yeah, but that was the expectation.
Okay, that's fine. That was the expectation. And yes, they say he's improved, but again, I haven't seen him improved. So all I have in my mind is the last time I saw him play, and it was not he was not an NFL tackle.
That's fine, but that. You also
they say he's gotten better. I'm excited to see him get better.
In fact, that was 9 months ago.
Yes. Okay. Now they say he's gotten better. I expect that he's gotten
night
better.
and day better.
Oh well, get my heart beating night and day. But I also am not a big fan of Skipper. But the game he played left tackle last year, he was good. As much as I didn't like what he's done in training camp, and as much as I don't like what I've seen from him most of the time, when he had to, he stepped up, and I have to give him the props for that.
Sure.
So right now, the two visuals that I have in my head are when Dan Skipper had to play, he played, and when Gio had a chance to improve over training camp, he didn't. And so that's where I'm at. The difference between them is it's a huge cavern distance between them. Have they made that distance? Have they closed that gap? Sure, maybe, but there's no way I'm saying he's close to OT3 right now. Will I say that in August? I hope so.
Maybe. I'm going to throw this out there, and I'm admitting it's on somewhat blind faith, but also because I trust when the coaches are telling me a player has made big strides, they're being truthful. I think he's going to be OT3 by the end of the season.
That'd be great. It'd be great if he was OT3 by the end of training camp.
Of course, that would be great.
Yeah, if he's OT3 by the end of the season, that's great too.
I mean, I'm still holding out hopes that like he's OT2 by 2026, maybe 2027.
If he's OT4,
I know that's the pie in the sky, though.
Like legit OT4. I'm happy. I would be happy with that progress.
As that if he was that being the ceiling?
No. Yeah, like my expectations for him is he should come in and challenge Soares still for OT4. That's where I'm expecting him to be at the end of training camp.
Okay.
If he's better than OT4,
okay,
awesome. At any point, if he gets better than OT4,
that's just gravy to you. Because I guess what I'm trying to expel here is you spend a 4th round pick on him, technically a future third. What is getting your money back, so to speak, on that draft pick?
If he starts ever.
Just once.
Yeah. Just, I mean, ever. So man, the guy has just wild talent. Like the way he moves, his athleticism, it's really like crazy. I don't know. Have you ever like had a one-on-one conversation with him? I don't recall if you have or not.
Yeah.
The first time that I had one, I was like, oh, look, here he comes. And then he just kept getting closer and he kept getting bigger and bigger in the frame.
And suddenly
and then when he was finally
the sun is being eclipsed. And you're like,
I was like, I thought Skipper was the tallest guy on this team. You are like right there. Like, and it's not just like, because Skipper's a little gangly, right? Mm-hmm. Manu is not gangly. Manu is like a filled out human being at like 6'8", 6'9", 6 whatever he is. Like, and it's like, holy cow, up close, you are giant. So,
all right,
I hope I'm not counting anything right
now. Our friends, the Honolulu Cheese podcast asks, call your shot. Who leads the lines in interceptions next year? Now we're both going to say Kirby Joseph. So
100%.
So let's instead pick number 2.
Brian Branch.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the way they play defense.
Yeah, but they just funnel all the interceptions to the safeties.
Yeah, they play. It's real hard to get in the man coverage that they do with their corners. It's really hard for them to get interceptions. Like you're more likely going to get PBUs, but it's really hard to get interceptions. For linebackers, they don't always drop to depth because they're also having to adjust for the run, and sometimes they're blitzing. And so it's hard again for the linebackers. The safeties just roam in the middle and just be like, yep, and that's all the time. And that's why, like, how many interceptions did they have together last year? Like 17 or something ridiculous combined interceptions.
It was 9 and 5 or something, 9 and 6 maybe.
Okay, I thought it was 9 and 6, but I also thought Kirby had 11 in my head, but I don't know why. But yeah, like, and a ridiculous amount. Well, they got Rodgers on a schedule now, so I'm expecting like at least a couple in that game. So. Yeah, Kirby's going to lead. Branch is going to be right there.
I guess maybe the better question is, what about at corner? Like, obviously, as you mentioned, they play a lot of man. That makes it more difficult. You have your back turned to the quarterback. Harder to jump on or out that way. But obviously you have, Terrion doesn't have his first interception. Ennis may or may not play, doesn't have an interception. Do you think we see a couple out of Terrion this year? It's a hard thing to predict, I understand.
He's probably got the best shot.
Yeah.
Right? Like the natural skills, the he has one of the traits that he had coming out of Alabama was that he had good awareness, good ball awareness, right? And so, yeah, in theory, but like you have to think of it in the way that like Carlton Davis got his interceptions last year. It was situational when they were in zone and they were playing like a quarterback that was a little loose with the ball.
Yeah.
And like that's how you're going to get your opportunities. And then it could be like any of them. Like what's the best ball skills amongst the corners? Like is Amik.
Yeah.
Amik is fantastic.
Yeah.
But like he's being inside, it's even harder if he's inside to get interceptions. True. Like he'd have to be jumping slants and stuff like that. So like it's really hard. But his ball skills are legit. Like he had an insane amount of balls of interceptions his senior year, and then but like at COVID, he never got to showcase stuff. That's why he dropped when he did. So, but his ball skills were one of the best things that he had on his resume. So, but yeah, I think Terrion. If it's between Terrion and Reed. Terrion is, I think, a little bit more natural.
Yeah. And I just like maybe the opportunity comes in the red zone, right? You play a little bit more zone in the red zone. You have your eyes on the quarterback a little bit more. And we've seen
maybe they do more. Maybe they do more zone. With new defensive coordinator, you never know.
True. You do never know. All right, last one here. Sunday is Father's Day, so Ed Helinski asks, in honor of Father's Day, who in the Lions organization is the best father figure? And to be clear, let's not answer who is now currently the best father. We're not here to judge people on their actual father skills because we can't possibly know the answer to that question. And I wouldn't be like, well, this person's daughter looks like a real jerk. Like we're not gonna do any of that. Now, the easiest answer here is Dan Campbell, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's the gimme. That's the gimme answer.
Like the guy
cries when your kid doesn't do their best or you put him in a bad situation. He gets all caught up and emotional, yet he's tough. He has high expectations. Like it's everything that like he's the prototype of what you would expect.
He's emotionally vulnerable. He preaches being yourself and lives it. You see it every day there in your household if you're his child. Just like this is what it looks like to be an individual that is completely unafraid to be himself. But outside of that, I'm not sure what the best answer is.
No, you go to guys that have kids like Graham or Decker or Pane or you know what I mean. Like I go to offensive linemen because they're the protectors. Right,
they're natural protectors.
Natural protectors. That's what the dads are. Right?
You know what?
You're
David
not picking
Montgomery
JMO.
is a good answer
not
too.
picking JMO based on his TD celebrations. I tell you that much.
What do you mean?
Oh,
What's wrong with
exactly
that?
what I mean.
What's wrong with being sex positive, Erik?
He might be the most likely to become a father with Ford Field's turf. But he's not necessarily there's so many dads on this team now, right?
I think David Montgomery is a good answer because Boy Scout background. He's a guy that talks about mental health a lot, so he's going to care about that aspect. I know he is a dad.
The thing about this team is that there's so many high character guys.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and there's so many, and they're legit. There's so many dads. Like, so has 3 kids now. He's like 21 years old, isn't he? Isn't he still 21?
He's 24.
But like.
By the way, really quick, do you ever get sad when the Lions post like "Happy birthday" so and so? I'm like, no, don't get it a year older. Like, I don't want to celebrate Jir Gibbs' birthday. That means he's no longer 22.
Look, you could pick almost any guy, right? Like that's the character of the players that they've filled this roster with, and that's fantastic.
Fathers out there, be more like Dan Campbell. That's really the message that I think we should go out on. We'll be back next week with another midweek mailbag episode. Most likely. There is a small caveat to that you may or may not learn about in the next 24-ish hours, maybe not. But until then, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Leave a review either on YouTube, on Twitch, or on whatever podcasting platform you listen to us. But until then, I'm Jeremy. That's Erik. It's Chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
You skipped the Za'Darius question. You
Oh,
moved it up and then
no! I
forgot to go
didn't
back
talk
to it.
about Za'Darius Smith.
I was gonna interrupt you, but I was like, you had
shoot.
set up the dad thing, and
Oh, crap. I feel like I have to record that and slip it in. I teased it the entire time.
Oh, I mean,
I
we
got-
can answer it here,
yeah.
but
Well, no, let me turn
Recording
the
in
recorder back on.
progress.
And I will I'll tell Chris to slip it in somewhere. All right. Let me get to it. Our next question here comes from Van the Man on Twitter, Mr. Tony Chaos. It's the Za'Darius Smith question we've been talking about. Do you believe Za'Darius Smith? So if you haven't seen, I'm sure you have by now, but he was at the BET Awards, basically said, like, yeah, I want to be a Detroit Lion. I want to sign with the Detroit Lions. And then, I don't know if you've seen this, Erik. There's a video, and I haven't determined the origin of it because a lot of aggregators don't properly source. But anyways, someone asked him, like, when are you going to sign with the Detroit Lions? And he says, soon. And so, do you believe him, first of all? Is that him speaking with insider information? Is that him speaking hopefully? Do you think he will be back with the Detroit Lions in 2025?
I think that's him speaking hopefully. The last we heard, the Lions had given him an offer. The offer was in his camp, in Za'Darius's camp, and it was up to Za'Darius to either make the counter, accept whatever. Lions said they were willing to bring him back. He is still wearing very proudly a huge Lions ring on his finger. He is walking around and letting that thing bling all over the place. And he is very against past patterns, very excited about trying to rejoin the team that he just left.
Yes.
Normally,
a team that just cut him. A team that
Yes.
just cut him. I think that's important to point out. Like,
yes,
before it was any team that approached him about taking a pay cut, he was out of there.
He was like, nope, I'm gone.
Right.
Yep, every time. He's the guy who, when he's walking away from a team, it's the team that's on fire in the background behind him, and he's the little
you
girl.
can't fire
walking
me.
away,
I
just
quit.
like, yep, and the bridge is burning.
Yes,
and he's just like, yep, never coming back to this place. And he does not care. And then he's done it. He did in Green Bay. He did in Minnesota, and in Detroit. He's like, hey guys,
have me back, please.
I'll come back right now if you want. Like, yeah, look at my ring. I can add another year on this thing. In all seriousness, I do think he will come back at some point. I don't think it's going to be like now, because there's no real incentive now. I don't think no veterans want to come back and go through the training camp, like, grind out days. Like, he doesn't want that. Like, he's working out on his own. He knows his routine. He knows how to get his body in the right shape. He'll wait for a couple weeks of training camp or a week or two of training camp to pass, and then he'll come in and he'll go through some conditioning. He'll start out slow, won't get much, and then, like, away he goes. And then he'll have several weeks, and then he'll be in the rotation. I think he's probably committed himself to saying, I'm not a starter right now in Detroit. I'm at this stage, I'm coming in to rotate at best with Davenport. But he also has to think Davenport's history says I could be a starter in week 1 or 2, right? So yeah, I have said all off season I expect him to return. Yeah. His actions look like he's going to return. Lions have said they'd welcome him back, and it's just really about money. And so, yeah, until he takes that ring off, I'm I'm expecting him to come back. I'm going to say August.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've moved over from not thinking he would resign to thinking he will resign. And I think part of the reason why I never thought he was going to resign was because of everything we just outlined. Is every team that has cut him or talked to him about a money reducing his money, he's been like, no, I'm not interested in doing that. And which, to me, by the way, I'm not saying that's a character flaw of him at all. Like,
No.
For a player
to
want to go, for a player to want to get paid what he's worth and not wanting to take a pay cut, I respect that. That is totally well within his rights, and he's made it work for him. But like, that is why I'm not like in the, oh yeah, it's definitely going to happen either, because I do think he's going to ask for a fair number. And it's clear he wants to stay here. And now he has, a girlfriend that is in the area that is, I mean, I don't think you can discount that that's helping in this situation.
Huge, for sure.
And so, I think he's probably willing to make more concessions than he ever has in his career. I mean, he's also going to be 33 this year, and so I'm sure he understands some of what's going on. But people in his position, historically, and I did a little bit of it in today's question of the day, like, they're getting 8, 9, 10 million a year. He's not going to get that here in Detroit. If the Lions turn down 11 million this year, even with the cap hit spread over 2 years, they're not just going to sign him for 9. And so he's going to have to he's going to have to do what a lot of players never do, which is take a hometown discount.
Yes.
And I'm not entirely sure he's going to do that. I think he will at this point, just with how he's saying everything, because he undoubtedly has the information of what the Lions want, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has the Lions, hey, we're not going to pay over this much. And if he's still saying I want to be here, and he's not complaining that they're lowballing him, it's probably going to happen. That's where I'm at.
Welcome. Come on over, man.
We better both not be wrong now.
It's easy. It's fun to be here. I enjoy it. I'm excited. I think a rotation of Davenport and Za'Darius Smith opposite Hutchinson, plus with the youth they have, I think people might finally stop asking questions in pressers about edge rushers.
They won't. They definitely
possibly
won't.
It's very possible.
They'll just do it next year.
Recording stopped.
All right, perfect. All right, I think I'm gonna get out of here, chat, because like I said, I do have to drop my dog off, and Alex told me he's starting to fall asleep, so I gotta go over to his house. Good to be back, everybody. I missed you guys. I missed this. But what's our schedule like going forward? No first bite this week. Sorry, Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers. I really tried. I reached out to 5 people and no one responded to me this week. So we'll get back on that next week, hopefully. If you missed any of this, you can just rewatch it on YouTube. You can watch the edited version or listen to the edited version on any podcast platform. And What's the News is coming in 24 hours? Hutchinson extension.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I just don't want it to happen on Friday.
I hope it doesn't either. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys sometime next week.